We'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining us today. I appreciate your time. We will try to make this as efficient as we can. We're very happy to announce that we recently completed a bid process for these Knoxville preferred hotels, and then we also have some other new preferred hotels to announce as well. I want to apologize if you hear any background noise. There was some unplanned construction in the building today. We didn't know that was going to be happening, so apologize for that. Hopefully it won't be too loud during the presentation. So there's a couple of websites that we'll be showing you a little demo of here briefly, and that's going to be the travel office website, and that's part of the Office of Accounts Payable. And we'll also be talking about our office, the Office of Procurement Services, a list of purchase orders and how to browse that website. That's very important so you can see the terms and conditions of each of these purchase orders with the hotels. And that's going to be relevant when we start talking about attrition, cancellation, and sorts of fees that you might incur if you don't meet the obligations of these hotels when you book events. So we will continue to move forward. I'll show you a demo of those websites before we start talking about the individual hotels themselves. Here's some links. And we'll send this PowerPoint presentation out, and I should have said at the beginning that we will be recording this webinar and having it available on our procurement office website under webinar, and that's where we put all the webinars that we record, and you're welcome to view any or all of those that are of interest. When you visit the travel website, you click on hotel rate information, and they're organized by location. So this is the Office of Finance general website, where we're in the accounts payable section, and under the travel tab, you'll see there are a few different options you can click on, and then here is hotel rate information. And as I mentioned, all these are sorted by the city. So we do have preferred hotels in several locations, and we are always seeking to expand those offerings. So we're certainly excited about all these properties, and particularly excited about the hotels we'll be discussing today, the Knoxville hotels, among some of the others. And all you can do is, if you want to, you can click on, for example, Knoxville, and you will see it's sorted by the columns here are each property, and then the rows just give you a comparison for blackout dates, whether internet's free, what the framework order or purchase order number is, who the contact person is there any special notes. And each hotel organized by city is going to have the same format on this website. All right, so again, that's where you'll find that information. There's I got a little ahead of myself on my notes. So when individuals book with any of these hotels, there's really three ways you can book. You can book through Concur, which is a really fantastic way to book your travel. I've used it. I think it's really nice once you get used to it. It makes it real easy to book all of your UT related travel. There's Concur training coming up. It looks like on Halloween, actually, at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So you can register with HR through the CATE system. And that website is cate.tennessee.edu. And type Concur in the search box, and you can find more information about attending that training there. You can also call the hotels and ask for the UT rate, or you can book through World Travel. So when we talk about locating the agreements, this is really important, so you can check those terms and conditions. It's on the Procurement Office website under Purchase Orders. And I'm going to pull that website up now and just give you a real brief demo. What you would do is you would, I got a little ahead of myself again. So on the Procurement Office website, when you click on the purchasing agreements, blanket POs, framework orders, you'll see login to view purchase orders. The reason we have them behind a login is that there's a special state law that prohibits us from disclosing certain information about certain suppliers. And just to make sure that we stay in compliance with that state law, we have it behind a login. And also having it behind a login allows us to maintain good relations with our suppliers, so we can post all their pricing. Sometimes they're kind of sensitive about pricing, and even though it's technically a public record, they are more comfortable having them behind a login, so it makes it easier for you guys to see what the agreements, what the pricing is. Probably the best way to use this website, oftentimes the supplier's name might not match what you think it is. So what you might want to do is just do press and hold the control button and then click F as in Frank, and you'll get this dialog box to search, and you can just type in hotel and press the enter key, and you can scroll through all of the hotel agreements we have. And here is the Crown Plazas. We'll just use that one as an example. You click the magnifying glass, and all of our framework purchase orders are on that website if they're universal or broadly applicable, and any campus can use them. So certainly I would encourage you to use that website anytime you want to look at the agreements we have. We have around 200. I'm using Firefox, and it usually defaults to save, but I'm going to open the file, and here is the purchase order. And you can read the master services agreement, and it will show you the various very important terms and conditions here. Particularly into the financial section, you'll be able to see last room availability, CONUS rates, when check-in is, when check-out is, how to book events, what the liquidated damages are if you cancel an event, or if you have attrition damages that you end up having to pay the hotel. We'll talk about what that means in just a minute. So we will move on from here, but I wanted to make you aware of that website. All right, so there are two types of agreements on the Office of Finance hotel rate information website, and this is really, really important to talk about. We have comprehensive agreements, and those are agreements that resulted from a bid process. They cover everything the hotel offers: sleeping rooms, meetings, audiovisual, food and beverage, everything and anything. So from easels to buffets to sleeping rooms, meeting rooms. And there are also rooms only or rate agreements, and those did not result from a bid process, and so we're not able to set it up as comprehensively to where you could pay under those agreements. The purpose of those agreements is just to set a rate for the hotel, and that's particularly advantageous for the university when we're in markets where the rates are very high, such as in Nashville or Washington, D.C. We're not able usually to get a whole lot of responses when we do a bid there. We did a few years ago a bid in Nashville. We have one of those hotels actually in Nashville, and then one in Murfreesboro, and another in Brentwood. But usually the comprehensive agreements, those are the ones that you're probably more familiar with, where you can bill anything that those agreements cover, which is everything the hotels offer. You don't have to do any bidding. There's no sole source requirements when you're using one of the comprehensive agreements. And then the rate-only agreements are useful because they lock in a rate for the university, and they help the university save costs, but they don't include any of these other services that the hotel might offer. So a list of the rooms-only agreements, and again, this presentation will be available on our website probably by Monday. Those are the rooms only, or the rate agreements. And then the comprehensive agreements, we have many, many more of those. And that's certainly the preferred type of agreement that we would want to offer. So does anyone have any questions so far about anything? If you do, please use the chat window. And yes, sir, you have plenty of time. We have a little bit more to go in the presentation. So you have plenty of time to think of questions. We always appreciate when folks ask questions. So again, when you use the rooms only or rate agreements, you will need to process a contract if the hotel needs something signed. So that would go through the normal contract review process. And if your department spends $10,000 or more with the hotel in a calendar year, you'll need to do an NCJ, or more likely, we will need to process a bid for you, and you would submit a requisition for that. And that's because those agreements were not bid; those are just a rate-only agreements. But when you talk about the comprehensive agreements, there's no additional bidding. There's no need to process a non-competitive justification or sole source. because those were all bid. And all purchases, regardless of the dollar amount. So if you had a $25,000 event or a $1 billion event, even maybe you won the lottery recently, you donate money to the university, and the university paid a whole lot of money for an event. That's a silly example, but it drives the point across that there's no dollar limit under these comprehensive agreements. So you don't have to worry about the $10,000 threshold or anything like that. That's because those were already bid through the appropriate public bid process. And how to book for individuals. Again, I mentioned that a few minutes ago. You can book through Concur, and definitely encourage anyone who's not had training on Concur to take training on it. It's a good training class, and it's a good system. You can call World Travel, and you can also call the hotel and ask for the University of Tennessee rate. For groups, really the only way you're going to be able to book a group room block or meeting space or any of those things is through calling the hotel. And here's a really, really important note, is that departments are allowed to sign order forms, including banquet and bid order forms, when you're booking under the comprehensive agreements. So when you're talking about the downtown Knoxville hotels or any of the other comprehensive agreements that we have, departments are allowed to sign those order forms with the hotels. That's stated in each purchase order. And I know often there's a lot of folks who are very hesitant to sign things, which is good. We encourage you to be very hesitant to sign things, because normally when you sign things, those actually have to go through the contract review process and have to be signed by an authorized official. But in these cases, we've structured it such that departments can sign the banquet and bid order forms. We know hotels need those, and that makes the whole process a whole lot more efficient. You don't have to worry about terms and conditions that appear on there as far as like the legal stuff that might appear on there, because the purchase orders prevail over anything that might be on these order forms. But you do need to be very, very careful about looking at the number of rooms that you're booking, the cancellation terms, the attrition terms. That's very important. And so whenever you're booking with a hotel, you want to be very careful not to book too many rooms. And we ask our hotels, what can the university do better to be a better customer? And uniformly, they all say the UT departments tend to book way too many rooms. And then the hotels, that's how they make money, is they sell rooms to the public. And if UT's holding up a block of rooms, they can't sell those to the public or to other groups. And so hotels, they lose money if UT, say, books 200 rooms and only uses 15 or something. Then that's the reasoning behind why the hotels charge cancellation or attrition fees. And we'll talk in just a couple slides about what those fees mean. But it's really important to make sure that you're conservative when reserving those rooms, and definitely strongly encourage all of you to ask hotels, what does attrition mean? What does cancellation mean? Can you make sure that I understand what fees I'm going to face whenever these certain deadlines reach, or what if we only have 80% of our rooms are filled? What kind of fees are we going to owe? Definitely have a dialogue with the hotel, because they are allowed to charge you attrition fees. They are allowed to charge you cancellation fees, and in the past they have. And the hotel can definitely explain it. Casey, who managed the bid and manages these agreements, can also help you with cancellation or attrition if you have questions. But really, starting out, having the dialogue with the hotel would be the best thing to do. So attrition is sort of a fancy word, and it's a type of fee that occurs when the customer here, the university, does not fulfill a group room block requirement. The industry standard is 85%. So typically, the customer, when booking a group room block, has to fulfill 85% or more of those group rooms that are in the block. So if UT had 100 rooms and only used 70, then UT would be responsible for 15 rooms. And so that's because UT is responsible for meeting 85% of its booked requirements. So in that case, if you had the 15 and it was for 3 nights, you would be paying the 15 times 3 nights times the certain room rate. So that would end up being kind of expensive. So attrition is something that's very important to pay attention to, and something that comes up not too often, but it has come up in the last year or so a few times, and it's something that you can avoid with a little bit careful planning and having a good dialogue with the hotel. Cancellation is just what it sounds like. It's when a group cancels the event completely. There might be some rare circumstances through what's known as a force majeure, where if there was some sort of an ice storm or an earthquake or something that would prevent you from getting to the hotel, you might be able to cancel without any sort of fees. But by and large, cancellation fees are allowed, and the university would have to pay them if the university canceled. And typically, cancellation fees appear in a tier, and so if the university canceled 100 days or more in advance, UT would owe a certain percentage, and then that percentage goes up as you get closer to the event. Whenever you're reading through these order forms, it's very, very important to think about cutoff date and what cutoff date means. Please ask the hotels if you have any questions at all. Cutoff date might mean that you can release rooms without fees up to the cutoff date, but it might mean something very different. It might mean that the hotel will hold your group room block at your negotiated rate until the cutoff date, and then after the cutoff date, release those rooms back into inventory to sell to other people, but that the university is still on the hook for all of those rooms. So be very, very careful when you're thinking about cutoff date and what it means. That's an important concept to not overlook and not take for granted. Make sure that you review these carefully. Certainly, we do have a responsibility in our office to manage these agreements at a high level and manage a relationship with the vendors. And so if you have any problems with these hotels, please let us know. We'll be happy if you have a bad experience at a hotel, or if you have a bad experience with a staff member from a hotel, definitely let Casey know, and we'll try to do our best to resolve that. But it's the department's responsibilities on our office is to ensure that you understand the hotel's terminology and fees in your order forms. So when you're signing those, make sure that you know what you're signing. That's very important that you do that. And if you have questions, you can reach out to Casey. Again, I'd recommend that you start out with the hotel, because they'll be able to be the ones to tell you and help you plan the size of your event. So that way, really both parties end up happier. You guys don't have to pay fees, and the hotel can plan better and manage their inventory better. All right, so at this point, I am going to turn it over to Casey, and Casey will talk about some of these hotels specifically, and I'll be watching the chat dialog box, so if at any time any of you have questions, please let us know.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Casey Kerrigan. First, I'm going to talk about the 5 preferred hotels that we have in the downtown Knoxville area. You may recognize that 3 of these we had prior agreements with: the Hilton, Crowne Plaza, and Holiday Inn World's Fair Park. And so now we have added new agreements with those, and have also added agreements with the 4 Points and the Hotel Knoxville. I want to discuss blackout dates for each of the properties. So they have various dates that are going to be listed in the hotel agreements that you can access from the website. And I also wanted to point out that all of the properties have blackout dates related to UT home football games. So that would be the Friday and Saturday nights surrounding the date of the game. So I wanted to discuss some of the points of each of the properties. Again, more information can be found in each agreement, and I didn't want to read through all of those and bore you. But for the Hotel Knoxville, which was formerly branded as the Marriott, internet parking are complimentary. Early departure fees are waived. Important to note that this property has no cancellation fees for food, beverage, and meeting space. So while they would have a cancellation fee for a group room block, this is a generous point I wanted to note here.
Casey, is the hotel still a Marriott affiliated property?
They are. So shuttle service is scheduled to begin this February, which is important to note because they are a little bit further from downtown than some of the other properties. So the 4 Points is the property that's closest to campus, and they are also giving us internet complimentary, early departure fees are waived, and groups below 30 attendees can cancel their sleeping room block without penalty 30 days prior to an event. The Holiday Inn World's Fair Park has complimentary internet and early departure fees waived if you notify them upon check-in.
And sometimes the Holiday Inn brand might not always be associated with really high quality hotels. Certainly nothing wrong. I say Holiday Inn sometimes when I travel for personal purposes. They're very nice hotels generally. But this hotel is very, very, very nice. They've gone through a lot of renovations over the last couple of years, and they just continue to make the property nicer and nicer. So it's probably a little bit nicer than maybe their brand would indicate on average overall.
The Hilton Knoxville is offering self-parking, complimentary, and internet. Important to note that the CONUS rate for this property is only offered if you make the reservation 21 days or more prior to your arrival. The other properties are offering CONUS as a last room availability. So that's an important distinction with the Hilton. You need to make your plans accordingly. And the Crowne Plaza, internet and parking are complimentary. Early departure fees are waived. And this is a unique point just to this hotel that they are offering the CONUS rate to prospective UT student visitors. They're the only ones that are doing that. But the reservation would have to be made by UT staff. So again, we've discussed cancellation, attrition, and what those mean. And they are going to vary with each of these properties. But I thought it was important to highlight this point that with the Hotel Knoxville and Holiday Inn, you can cancel at any point 91 calendar days or more prior to your event without having to worry about those fees. But with the other three properties, the Hilton, Four Points, and Crowne Plaza, once you do sign off on that event form, you are at least liable for something. So you want to read those very carefully if you're booking pretty far in advance. So the next property is just down the road from Knoxville, the Alcoa Airport Hilton. They give us CONUS for UT staff and then 114 for UT guests. Internet parking are complimentary and early departure fees are waived. So this one, you don't have to worry about your home football game blackout dates. Their blackout dates vary and are listed in the agreement, but do not specifically include those games. We have 3 properties in the Chattanooga area, and the first one we'll talk about is the Chattanooga Marriott Downtown. CONUS rates for Chattanooga are offered. So CONUS rates vary from your geographical location, so it might be slightly different for Chattanooga than it is Knoxville. Internet is complimentary, early departure fees are waived, and their blackout dates vary, but they limit that to 10 per year. And similarly with the Chattanoogan, we have CONUS rates, complimentary internet, an early departure fee may be charged of $75, and they are limiting their blackout dates to 16 per year. The Reed House Hotel, the historic property, also gives CONUS rates, complimentary internet, early departure fees are waived, and has no blackout dates. We have just one property in the Tri-Cities area, the Meadowview Conference Resort. They are giving us a room rate of $91 per night, a 15% discount on their current meeting space rental charges, and they offer a meeting package of $100 per person per day that includes lunch for your attendees and parking and internet complimentary. Then our Our Nashville location at the Hilton Airport has CONUS rates for Nashville, complimentary parking and internet, and important to note that they have a complimentary shuttle service to the airport and to the Opry Mills location. The Brentwood Hilton gives UT employees in group blocks 15% off of the best available rate, a shuttle service within 5 miles of the hotel, and a generous cancellation policy without penalty, 30 days advance notice. The Doubletree Murfreesboro gives CONUS rates, complimentary shuttle service within 5 miles, and the blackout dates are just for the Bonnaroo Festival. So the following properties are the ones that we have rate agreements with, and Blake earlier discussed the difference between these two. The rate agreement with the Embassy Suites Vanderbilt, you can see there on the slide, $198, and shuttle service within 2 miles of the hotel. The Hutton Hotel in Nashville has $199 for deluxe rooms, complimentary parking, and shuttle service within 3 miles of the hotel. The Doubletree Jackson gives us the CONUS rate, and I wanted to point out that we have a separate webinar for this property that is on the procurement website under the webinars page. And same with the Doubletree Memphis. So if these are properties you're interested in, I would encourage you to go take a look at those webinars. And the Memphis Sheraton Downtown, $135 for standard king or 2 double beds, and early departure fees are waived. And finally, we have a property in Washington, D.C. that we have a rate agreement with. Depending on the time of year, we can get 10 or 15% off of the best available rate.
All right. If folks have any questions, please use the chat dialog box. I've got a couple of questions came in here. One I addressed while we were chatting. We're still having a little bit of a conversation about it, so we'll go ahead and handle that question. So the question is does the university have an agreement with the Hilton Garden Inn on campus, and what about the Hyatt Place? And the answer is no. We invited both of those properties to the bid, and both declined, refusing to give the university CONUS rates, and last room availability, and some basic requirements from there. So a follow-up question was, should the department not use the Hilton Garden Inn? So under procurement policy requires departments to use existing agreements when available. And so as long as the existing agreements, for example, the 4 Points, which is depending on where you are on campus, it might be a little bit further away, but it's still very, very close, and it's on the edge of campus, on the other end of Cumberland. As long as any of those hotels can meet your needs, then you should use those hotels. And if you have any questions about that, just please feel free to follow up with us. We have another question here. Let me read it really quick. Yeah, so the question is that and we tried to negotiate this out of the Hilton agreement, but they were very, very dead set on not removing this clause. The question is the Hilton agreement states that UT conferences will not be eligible for this agreement when booking non-university events. Does that mean that when representing, if you're representing a third party, that you have to have a separate contract with them? Yes, you do. They refuse to provide the CONUS rates to third parties, and they felt very strongly about not doing that. We will be offering a webinar with the Hilton soon, and you can register for it using the same email that you registered for on this one. There's a different link, but it's the same email body that contains the link. So would certainly encourage you to attend that webinar, and you're very welcome to ask that question to them. It's a fair question. But yes, you would need to have a separate contract. So when entering into Trip Manager, we use the expense type lodging contracted rates. since it's a CONUS rate, for the ones that are CONUS rates, it shouldn't matter, so you should be okay. For the ones that, and there's just the Embassy Suites Nashville, the Memphis Sheraton, I believe there might be one or two others that are like the DC properties. Those are not CONUS rates, so in that case you would need to use the contracted rate. That's correct. But otherwise it's CONUS, and it won't make a difference. So it'll not, you can just use the normal lodging non-conference category. All right, so any other questions? We'll give folks about 30 seconds or so. I know sometimes it takes a while to type out a question, and again, sometimes there's a little bit of an internet delay, and I don't want anyone to feel like we robbed you of the ability to ask a question. But I'm not seeing anything else pop up, so we'll start to conclude here if no one else has any other questions. So certainly, thank you very, very much for attending today. I know you're all very busy, and this was an information-packed webinar, and appreciate your attention and the questions that you asked. Those were very good questions. We appreciate that. And certainly welcome you to attend the future webinars that we have about these hotels or any of the others that we offer out of this office that might be of interest to you. And I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll go ahead and say good. Let's see. Yes, we will be posting this webinar. We'll be posting it probably. I might try to come into the office tomorrow and post it. Otherwise, it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday before it's posted. And you're welcome. So someone said thank you. Oh, you're very welcome, and it's very nice of you to say that. So thank you for attending, and I'm glad that you guys asked questions. I hope that you found all the information very, very helpful. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day and a fantastic weekend. And we will be signing off. So thank you very much, and take care.